in the little chat. SMART goals, so these are kind of how you create them. They are specific, which is the S, so specific would be clear and defined. M is measurable, so they have precise dates or amounts. Attainable, within realm of possibility for your current situation, what your team is like. Relevant, pretty much speaks for itself, and time-bound, so they have a deadline. And then individual and team goals, it's really important to have both. So we do a lot of exercises where we create our individual goals and our team goals together, and just make sure that everyone is kind of using these specific techniques to reach their goal, just to help that process along. The next slide. And so this is how our goals relate to recruitment, buy-in, and season structure. So recruitment-wise, when your leadership is kind of meeting in the fall and deciding what you want your team to be, you may be doing a little goal setting beforehand, and it has a lot to do with your recruitment. So all of that, everything you do should align to your process and outcome goals. So say it's recruitment season and you are wanting to qualify for nationals for the first time. It's really important to make sure that maybe commitment and competitiveness is something that you champion when you are recruiting. So make sure your goals are aligned to how and why you are recruiting the players that you are. It impacts buy-in, so everybody on your team needs to be bought into these goals so that the people at the top aren't the only people who are driven by them. We do a lot of team goal setting. I know some teams don't do team goal setting and the leadership kind of decides what they want, and that's fine. As long as you know that everybody is bought into that, you're going to be a lot more successful achieving your goals throughout the year. And then the fall and spring structure. Again, if your goal is something like making top 10 at sectionals, you need to find tournaments and you need to plan practices that allow you to reach those goals. Say it's qualifying for nationals, so you want to, you're going to want to try to get to tournaments where you're going to see qualifying teams from last year. And it could be recruiting more people to play and retaining more players. So your goal is going to need to, or your season structure is going to need to be structured around that. So maybe you're more, you emphasize fun more and the social aspect of Ultimate. That's pretty much the spiel. I added a quote down there. That's one of my favorite quotes. It says, "Setting goals for your game is an art. The trick is setting them at the right level, neither too high or too low. A good goal should be lofty enough to inspire hard work, yet realistic enough to provide solid hope of attainment." I've been on a lot of teams that kind of blindly say we want to win nationals and don't set process goals. So we set an outcome goal and no process goals, and we also don't analyze who our personnel are, and so we end up kind of falling short of that goal and being disappointed. So goal setting is very important. Every team should do it. If this is your first time hearing about it, you should definitely Google. I get a lot of my stuff from Sports Textbook and Mind Gym and that kind of thing. So if you have any questions? Should I answer this question now? Yes, okay. So James asks, what is your go-to template for goal setting a team goal? I always set the outcome goal first. So think really big picture. So if we are planning a fall season and our outcome goal was win regionals, then that goes first. And then we set mini outcome goals throughout the year based on the tournaments that we're going to. And then we try to brainstorm all of our process goals. So we'll have an outcome goal for throughout the season, and then 3 process goals per outcome goal of how we're going to achieve that. Hopefully that answers your question. How do you adjust goals when there are players at different points? So I think that's where individual goal setting comes in. And so the individual person should not be alone in their goal setting. It should definitely be a leadership discussion. And that's where feedback also comes in. So if you are setting a high expectation of competition and you know that there are a few people who aren't going to be able to maybe like contribute to the team this year in that way, then it's a conversation that you should have, and I've had those conversations before, and you should set the expectation that they should be putting in the work to help the team in whatever way they can this year, and that their work is going to pay off in years to come.
All right, cool. We're going to come back to goal setting during the question round. So I see that there's a couple more, and we're not forgetting about you. We're copying and pasting your questions so that we can answer them. I'm going to talk a little bit about culture. My name is Zara Cadoux, and I'm one of the co-founders of GUM. I'm a captain for Backhanded Ultimate, a women's club team here in Baltimore and DC. And I played D3 when I was in college. I played at Vassar College. So creating an inclusive culture is something that I really, really believe in. And there are several different reasons to do this. The first is it helps to create the buy-in that Claire was talking about and improves your retention. But more importantly, or not more importantly, but importantly, it translates onto the field, and it's the foundation for the team. So how your team treats each other, how your team handles conflict and processes things, is most likely how you will all sort of behave in high pressure situations during a game. So there's no right or wrong culture. So this is a chance for you to kind of think about, okay, what is the culture of our team? So I have some questions to consider, and I would really encourage you, if you have pen and paper, to kind of jot things down as they come to you while I'm speaking. And the first is just, how do you define your team's unique culture? Each team's a little different and it's got like lots of different things that are really cool about it. So spending some time to say, hey, you know, what really makes us us? And a lot of that happens through rituals and traditions off the field. And so taking a kind of inventory of that. What things are in place already? Do we do pasta parties? Do we have rookie initiations, formal scavenger hunts? All of these kinds of things help build the team. So I would suggest, you know, before your season starts, writing all of those things down so you have a sense of what are the things that are important, what are the rituals that make us us. And then what traditions exist during tournaments? What cheers do you have? How do you celebrate scores? How do you handle when you get scored on? What sort of self-talk, mental toughness cues? That's all part of your team culture. And then, as members of the leadership, your task is to consider what are the objectives of each tradition, which might not sound like a whole lot of fun, but I really believe as a leader you should know why you're doing something, and you should really plan. You should plan around that. And the goal can be I want the team to bond in like a structure-free environment for 1 hour. Or it could be, you know, I want to make sure that we're breaking up cliques within the team, and this is the way to do that. But being really clear about what a social event does will make it so it really, really serves your team in a really profound way. And then lastly, really thinking about, now you've done your inventory, you're looking at, okay, what do we have? What, you know, what can we strengthen? What can we be, you know, what can be expanded? But also what sends an unintended message. This is something that I've thought a lot about as I've coached several different teams. As I should have said, I've coached 2 different college teams. I'm current coach of Towson University women. And to really kind of suss out, okay, so how are especially younger players getting messages about what the culture of this team is and how might we want to shift that? All right. So here are some different ways to think about building an inclusion into what you're doing. So the first thing is, within your traditions, are you building in options? You don't want people to be forced, I believe, you do not want people to feel forced into traditions. You want them to opt in. So something that my college team did a lot was say, especially if there were substances involved, let's be honest, that's like a factor in a lot of college experiences, to provide a variety of options for ways to participate. And that was a way that we really built a strong culture, by making sure that everyone could do the team thing, whether they were comfortable with different parts of it or not, so that we were saying, hey, you're all important to this experience. And then, again, as leaders, the thing that's not always fun, but I think is really important, is making sure that you've planned ahead. So setting the schedule months ahead of time, not that it can't be tweaked and not that you shouldn't be responsive to your team, but knowing what are sort of all of the things that you're planning to do. One, that helps you pace kind of the things that you're doing as a team, and think about that intention or that objective for each event. But also that it allows students who have jobs, other commitments, to schedule things into their calendar. That's something that I think is really huge as we try to, you know, expand just general inclusion and equity in our sport, is thinking about, you know, making sure that everyone has that opportunity to be a part.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to start out really quickly by asking everybody who's here with us to write in that chat box what school they attend, so what college program you're part of, or if you're a coach, just include where you coach, because that's what I'm going to be talking about.
Not only how do you build in player voice, but how do you
really awesome to see sort of the range of where everybody is from. So,
how do we define our
State.
culture?
Thank you, Stevie.
And
of course, she was there right away. So I just want to start by introducing myself. My name is Qxhna Titcomb. I graduated from Tufts last year. So I played 4 years of college ultimate, and I played 1 year of club ultimate in Boston on Brute Squad, and then most recently 1 year of club ultimate here in Seattle. This past summer, I was the founder and organizer of the All-Star Ultimate Tour. And so I think a lot about community, and I think a lot about how we can sort of grow our sport. And this webinar is community in a nutshell. And so I just kind of wanted to take a second and talk about the big picture of us coming together. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was just that I think sometimes we forget that women in sports is a really important part of our society, and I think that we forget that playing a sport for women has a lot of really great opportunities in terms of growing confidence, working on leadership, and being a support system. And I think that if you keep that in mind in terms of the big picture, it can be really helpful in thinking about how you want to be a part of the ultimate community. So by playing college ultimate, you are part of this ultimate community and Women in Ultimate. Women in Ultimate is a great community. There's a strong support system anywhere you go, even beyond college. You hopefully will get a chance to travel, and when you do travel, there are people that you can reach out to that will sort of be welcoming to you. And the Women's Ultimate community is a very motivated, strong, and intelligent network of women. And for a lot of people beyond college and even throughout their life, it can be a big part of their lives. Being part of this community also comes with kind of a responsibility, I think. We are a part of a growing sport, and with that comes the opportunity for us to be able to shape the sport in a way that is very unique. A lot of other sports, such as, you know, soccer or lacrosse or I mean, really any other sport that has been around for a long time just has such a history. And since Ultimate is in its infancy, we can really be a part of shaping how we want it to look. I thought a little bit about ways in which college programs can be a part of the Ultimate community. One of the ways that comes to mind that's very, very simple is through coaching and through running clinics. I know Zara was the first one to say, hey, you know, if you run a clinic as a team, not only you're giving back to your community, you're investing in developing leadership of your team, and you're doing something really good that brings everybody together. So those are just two ideas in terms of how to shape the larger community. And then another aspect is that we are part of the demand for women's Ultimate. And so we can support that demand, and we can be a part of it, and be active in with using our voice to demand equal representation, whether that's online in the media or you know, in person, being part of the conversation. I think it's really important to think about you know, commenting on articles, liking and sharing and retweeting women in Ultimate media. And one of the things that I want all of us to kind of come away with is hopefully the thought that we can support each other. And the easiest way to do that is to just find other teams within your region or within your city and go and like their Facebook groups, follow their Twitters, and like and share and support each other. So yeah, I don't know if I haven't been looking at this chat section. If anybody has any questions, hopefully that can come in here. Is now a time that we want to look at some of the questions from earlier? Specifically, Claire asking about process goals and outcome goals.
Yeah, I was just looking at Sam's question. How do you adjust goals when there are different players at different points? And I think a lot of teams run into this, where on every team there's going to be a really wide range of players in skill and how they can contribute off the field. And I think the most important thing is being transparent and realistic with them, and allowing that process to happen together. I've kind of tried to already answer this question, but I wanted to go back and make sure that I answered it as best I could. So we run into a situation where we have a couple players on our team that are getting really minimal points during tournaments, and at the beginning of the year we decided to take a bigger roster and set the expectation with them that this is how it was going to go, and that practice was really going to be the place where they got to participate on the field the most, and that isn't necessarily doesn't necessarily correlate with how important they are to the team, because every team needs a good sideline, and every team needs different people to help sustain and create energy, and doesn't necessarily have to do with anyone playing on the field. So I think it's important, one, to like find a role for all of those players and help them understand their role and help them understand how they can be the player or the teammate that they want to be, and let them know if that's not going to happen this season, then that's not going to happen this season, but that you are in that with them. Let's see. And there's another question about, I've been on a team where it made sense to adjust the outcome goal mid-season. I haven't been on a team that had to adjust it. I have been on a team that should have, in hindsight, adjusted it, based on the commitment level and the work that we were putting in. Our goal was to make nationals, and there really just wasn't, I mean, we were practicing like twice a week and not in the gym or on the track at all, and that's just not going to get you where you want to be. And so I wish for that team that we had made an outcome goal that was realistic, and had set process goals so that we were able to like check in mid-season and like know where we were. And yeah, so I haven't been on a team that has tried to adjust, but I've definitely been on one that in hindsight should have. Okay, so the last part of that question is, if so, how did you do this, incorporating both the leadership and the team's expectations and desires? I think all of those conversations should be team conversations coming from a united front of your leadership, and just like be very, like I was saying before, transparent and clear about what you're seeing. And, you know, leadership is there for a reason, mainly because of experience. And you have experience dealing with, you know, understanding where teams are at certain points in the season. And I think it's important not to completely denounce or like go away from your goal if it was too lofty. But it's good to be realistic and be really upfront with the team. Okay, so question 6. Do you set these goals in the fall, or do you have more frequent team meetings to update, create new goals? I think we do 2 goal settings. So we do a fall goal setting and a spring goal setting. And a little bit of why we did that, we were missing one of our captains in the fall who was studying abroad. So we wanted to make sure that she was there for our like big spring goal setting. But we definitely did 2. And we had a meeting beforehand as leadership about what we thought of our personnel and what we thought we could do with the people that we had and what kind of work we needed to put in. And so we had to make sure that we were on a united front, and we knew what we needed to do to achieve our outcome goal, but we definitely wanted player input in creating the goals.
So Rachel asked a question about increasing turnout at practice. And so I think that, Rachel, I think you said you're from UVAB. So something that I saw when I used to coach University of Maryland, Baltimore County campus, was that the girls had a lot of practices scheduled and not very good turnout at any of them. So something that we worked on was making sure that we had like sort of the right number of practices that people could actually attend, and looking at schedules. So I'm not sure exactly if players are falling off, if you had good attendance before and whatnot. But that's where I think that that really the focus on culture comes in, because when you're building a program and you're really just trying to get people there, that's something that those social events will really help with. But also sort of the culture around what are the expectations and do we all agree to come to practice. So that sort of, that overlaps with the goal setting, but saying, you know, how do we want to approach things as a team? And I think that is a team discussion. So I think if you're struggling right now with getting enough players to practice, that maybe that is something that you all talk about, and not in a scolding kind of way, but just like, hey, you know, it's kind of been tough for those of us who are here, and what's really going on, and what are our shared goals together, and how do we get there?
At A team, the A program, we really emphasized making sure that returners could be at those fall practices. That was, you know, obviously to have turnout at practices, but also to give an opportunity for returners to take that time to work on their own leadership skills and also work on, you know, sort of individual goals that they have, perhaps. And I think that setting a structure for returners to feel invested in the fall practice or in just practice in general is really important to finding success. So I want to address this question that Temp wrote. Hi, Temp. How's it going? He asked, you may have mentioned this earlier, but do you set all these goals in the fall, or do you have more frequent team meetings to update/create new goals? I think that goals definitely need to be checked in on and updated throughout the season, either as you need to, you know, expand your goal and maybe reach higher, or sort of reassess and calibrate it. I think I definitely regret in college not making more time. We're trying to take in all of
these questions right now. We're not
to have
just pausing and ignoring you.
The team come together and spend time on goal setting. I think that it's really strong to have the coach or the captain acknowledge that goal setting is really important by actually, you know, taking time out of practice if that's what needs to happen. I know a lot of people are very busy, and so sometimes having an extra team meeting, you know, is, you know, too much or too hard to get everybody in the same place. But if you can take time from practice, maybe the last 30 minutes, and work on that all together, not only is it really beneficial from the team, but from the leadership, the captains, and the coach, it really shows that they are invested in the team coming together and creating these goals together and focusing on growth.
Sam asked about sort of the long term when players want playing time now and they don't get it and they're fading off. So I think something that I use is I do with my co-coach, we do a lot of individual meetings, and that takes a lot of time as coaches. But sitting down one-on-one with the player and saying, what are your goals? What are the things you're working on specifically? But also, this is the role that we see for you, which sets the expectation, but also I think really sets them like, we want you to really, really focus on, you know, being number 2 in the cup, and that's your job, and like, and then that gives that player something that she's really, really working on, instead of feeling like, I sometimes go in and I sometimes don't, and that's really frustrating. So that's one way that that we've tackled that on Towson. Hey, Claire, do you want to take how do you incorporate younger players into goal setting?
I think we definitely start with our team meetings. And typically, kind of like Zara was saying, we have individual meetings with players if need be. We kind of went away from that a little bit this year, but I know we did meetings like before and maybe after tournaments last year with each player. Obviously, it's like a very time-consuming thing to do, but also really important. So I think this year we opened it up to email conversations and kind of hold office hours, so that people aren't doing any of this on their own. And I think that you'll come to find that even though younger players are a little less experienced, once they get to practice, they can kind of like pick out a player that they want to be. And I think that's really important is kind of having role models and picking out different traits of their teammates or, you know, people that they watch on the field, and help them figure out how to get there. So I think it's easy for them to figure out who they want to be. It's a lot harder to figure out how to help them get there.
Individual and team goals, as well as how to get there. So that's another option for how to include younger players into that goal setting discussion, and then have it be on a small scale. So, you know, you can be open and you can explore your goals when it's in a much smaller setting, and that's easier to do when it's just with one other person versus with the entire team. It may be overwhelming for a new player.
Jen asked about the possibility of a mixed college division and helping girls feel empowered on the field, and also teaching boys how to incorporate girls better. Something that we saw when we did when we, being GUM, did a survey of girls who had played on the youth level, was that the experiences playing mixed were very split, honestly. Some people had really enjoyed it and some people had hated it. And what seemed to be sort of that X factor was their coaching. Overwhelmingly, girls from Seattle who were coached by Miranda Roth and Ben Wiggins, etc., were like, yeah, I had a great time playing mixed. And girls who had coaches that didn't stick up for them, they did not have a good time. So I don't know if that's quite to your question of, you know, then because your question is the how, but to say that the leadership either of the team or the coaching leadership needs to really be on board in terms of creating a culture and creating sort of rules around what that will look like. I don't know if Claire or Tina, you want to jump in about really like the specifics around how. Oh. Nope, they don't want to. Okay, so I'll keep talking. Um,
Yeah, so I will chime in here in terms of the mixed division. Something that got announced earlier this year, and it's not quite happening yet, but something we are looking for at USA Ultimate 2017, we're looking towards starting to build a mixed division in the fall. Right now, we're looking just at regional events. It's going to start small, and we're going to see where we go from there. So it's something that USA Ultimate is thinking about. I know there's some mixed college going on right now. USA Flatball has an event, and it's sort of it's an experience when you think about it. Sort of, we have mixed at the highest level. The very highest level of our sport is mixed. If we're ever in the Olympics, it's going to be mixed. And people have asked us the question, why is mixed not in college? So that's why we're thinking about it, and what we're trying and thinking about doing and doing it soon. But for now, I mean, when we think about college ultimate, we think about what's been around for a long time, and that's men's and women's. Hopefully that shed a little bit of light on what the plans are for mixed college. Yeah, that's all I got. I'll leave it to our presenters now.
Jen, just to follow up, because I don't think we answered your how. Like, how do you get boys to respect women on the field, et cetera, or men to respect women on the field? That is something I think really got more attention than we can give it tonight, and to say that there are some coaches who are really, really very knowledgeable about that, and I'd be happy to connect you to them. The next question comes from Mary, who's talked about not having enough leadership to form a B team, losing a lot of seniors, and having a lot of freshmen. So suggestions for practices that are beneficial to both higher level players and new players. Something that I've done before that in the fall, which really, really was helpful, was hold advanced practices. So a second practice or a third practice that was separate to keep the returners hooked, so they were learning new concepts, and so that they felt more invested in the practices where they were helping to teach. So that's not directly to your question of how to run a practice that will combine both, because I think that it's really hard to do that. So finding playing opportunities for your advanced players so that they feel like they're growing, but then also that they're feeling energized to give back to the girls who are new to the sport.
Sort of thoughts on that. I played at Tufts, where we had an A and B team, and we've had an A and B team for multiple years, even before I got to Tufts. So I don't really have a good handle on what that process is like.
I can add a little bit. In the fall, we have a B team, but we segmented our practices, so we split up experience and had a few of our most experienced players parse off and go with the least experienced, and we'd run the same drills, but we differentiate up a little bit for our more experienced players. And so I think that's probably a good way to run practices if a B team just isn't the option. But I think the goal in mind should be headed towards a B team if your roster becomes too big.
Mary, you said that one of the reasons why you can't form a B team is not enough leadership, and kind of to what Qxhna was saying, that's really, really difficult with trying to start a new team. Maybe something to think about is recruiting a coach for the B team. That was something that we did at Towson that has really, really helped make that team sort of more real, and something that people are more bought into is they have 2 awesome coaches this year. And the coaches are able to sort of hold that space where captains maybe would on a lot of other teams, and give legitimacy to really, really teaching those basic skills when they might look over at the A practices and feel like they're frustrated that they're not on the A team. So that was something that we tried. And so I don't know what players you might have in the area to draw from as potential coaches, but I would definitely recommend that.
And how they need to prepare if they have things that they want to work on, if they need to throw extra short passes and dump passes, or if they need to work on their hucks. Just so you kind of have a good range of what your team as a whole is preparing for, but also give some time for other players to work on things that they feel like they need to warm up for the game.
Just to like piggyback off of that really quickly, it's important to practice that routine too, and have something where players know that they need to flip the switch. And a lot of times you can go throughout practice without actually flipping the switch. So having something set that the team knows, okay, now we're in game mode, or now we're in practice mode. And so repetitive like warm-up drills that you use during practice to get you ready, hopefully that like doing something that trains the body to get you, body and mind, to get you ready to compete.
There's a question about creating a team atmosphere in which practices and tournaments are both focused and fun. I think one of the ways that I approach this is to address, first off with my teams, that fun and competitive is a false dichotomy. And that's something that we talk about all the time. Well, are we being competitive or are we being fun? And it's like, well, if you want to play a sport, then a certain level of competition is going to be fun to you. So how do we work out of that that sense of things? And that's something that's honestly an ongoing challenge for me as a coach and as a captain. So I think that I'm always throwing things back out to the team. So like my team's goals this year are a lot about positivity on the sideline and all of this stuff, and we do surveys to get feedback on practices and all this stuff, and say how are things going, and they keep saying we want you to lead more on sort of this culture part, and we keep putting it back to them to say this is you, like how are you going to do that, and taking time out of practice to let them sit together and talk about like, okay, you have these goals, you've expressed these goals, what are each of you going to do to create an atmosphere that's both focused and fun. So I think to that question, it's a lot about setting expectations. What are your expectations for practice? have you talked about them as a team? How do they get communicated? What are your expectations for tournaments? So I don't know if that was helpful. Please write in if you want me to expand anymore.
A water break and kind of a goof off break, giving people time in between drills or time in between scrimmages. That can be really helpful to help balance that sort of competitive and fun, or, you know, focus and fun. And then I had one more thing to say, but I'm totally forgetting right now. I can't remember. I did want to point out that there's some good talk here on the chat that KJ is talking a little bit about Colley's B team, just coming back to what we were talking about earlier about developing a B team, and how important it is to find a coach just to help grow your team. So I don't know, that was sort of separate, sorry. I'm not, I'm thinking, I'm not really sure where that term comes from, but we do have micro communities on my club team here in Seattle, Riot. I think that there's a lot of value to buddies, and I think there's a lot of value to micro communities, which are basically just.
Do either of you have thoughts on micro communities versus buddies? No.
Buddies kind of gives you more of a one-on-one. Someone is really just looking out for you, and you're looking out for one person.
Never had
being part of a buddy group or a micro community has
really
also a lot of value in terms of being able to get more perspective and then being able to get more feedback. If you know your buddy can't answer one question, if you're part of a micro community, then maybe you can go to different people and ask different questions. So I think they're both really great. I think it depends how the culture of your team and sort of the history of the team. Buddies is a really good way to start if you don't have either a micro community or a buddy on your team, or a buddy system, excuse me, on your team, because it's a little bit easier to structure and easier to schedule, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question about team culture and working with players whose attitudes negatively affect team culture or spirit. I call those teammates, and I've had them and I've coached them, I call them toxic teammates. And so how do we sort of embrace this person as a member of our team while also letting her know that the way that she's behaving is affecting other people negatively, and that has to shift, and that's not actually an option to not shift. So a lot of what I will do as a coach or as a captain is have a conversation about what really motivates that player. What is the thing that she really, really is motivated by? And then, you know, let's say that it's a player who has sort of a win-at-all-costs mentality, right? And she's getting frustrated and that negativity is sweeping through the team. I would probably have a conversation to say, well, if that's your goal, then this is what your teammates need you to do, because you can't win by yourself, so you need your teammates to do that with you. So this is what you need to put out, even if you're faking it, because this is what, if winning is the most important thing to you, then this is the path to winning. So not to put sort of like a value on what the motivation is, but to put it in terms of like, if that's where you're trying to go, then I need you to be on the same page with the rest of the team. And, you know, you need to figure out how to do that. If there's a player who doesn't respond to that and continues to really, really negatively affect the team, then honestly, as a coach, then you're starting to look at, okay, so do you start to, you know, say, so if you do these specific things, you're going to start to lose playing time. And I believe in those measures. I don't think that that's wrong, but I think it has to be tiered. I don't think you can jump straight there. I think it has to be a conversation about what that person's role is on the team first and foremost.
Player having a strong relationship.
Asked also sort of right after that
with somebody who's goofy
roles.
And being okay with
old,
having a conversation with them if they're, you know, being too goofy or being not, you know, taking away energy. So I think team roles are good.
One of my coaches always said that if you're not putting in energy, you're taking it away. So just, I think it's a good question for everyone to ask throughout the season, throughout a tournament, throughout a practice, whether or not you are putting in energy or taking it away because you're doing one or the other. So the next question is how to balance growing depth in your roster and wanting to win games / increase your ranking. I think a lot of this has to do, again, with goal setting. So if your goal, you know, what is your goal at the end of the season? Can you afford to spend time at tournaments or time at practices developing your roster? Typically the answer is yes. Like there is so much time from the fall to April where you really need to be peaking. And it's really important to know that tournaments and being at tournaments is such a minimal part of your experience playing. It's important for players to know that they're going to practice and they're going to work out and they're going to play mini and do things outside of practice far, far more than they're going to play at tournaments. And that's going to develop them much more than playing at tournaments. And I know that's always like the outcome goal that people want is like, I want to play X amount of points and I want to contribute. But it's really important for people to know that practice is really where you develop most. And, you know, winning games and increasing ranking, like you have to figure out how to do that at different points in the season. And if your goal is to get another bid for the region and that's a team goal and everybody's bought in for that, then, and you can't go deep into your roster, then everybody, that needs to be a transparent team thing that's told from the team, that your strategy is going to be playing tight lines or however you're going to achieve that goal needs to be transparent. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
You know, one-off scrimmages against teams that are nearby. So that's other college teams that are nearby, or if you're in a city or in a region where there are women's teams, you can sort of reach out to them and say, hey, are you willing to come and scrimmage against us? And that can give your program a really good opportunity to learn from other players and to give experience to the entire roster.
big plug for playing more mini and allowing those players to get more touches. It's really easy to like have one-off scrimmages and you can hide when you're playing sevens, but you can't hide when you're playing threes or fours. So playing mini and really getting them used to being on a field and catching and throwing like they're playing full field is really huge. So we do like every Friday we play mini, and it's not mandatory, but it's really heavily emphasized. And like if you wanna be the player that you say that you want to be, like this is where you come and show up and work on that.
Julia asked about giving equal playing time on a B team when not all the players attend the same number of practices or have the same kind of commitment. I think that you can do it either way. I think you can do the equal playing time, and I think that you can not have equal playing time based on based on commitment, as long as that has been communicated to the team and everybody knows that expectation. So I think you can really do it either way, just as long as everybody is on the same page with that. And that comes back to this kind of question of culture and what your team's culture is. Does the leadership make these decisions? Does the team come together and have consensus on this? Does this get handed down from a coach? And none of those things are right or wrong. It's just knowing what they are so that you can communicate them back out. Are there any questions that we missed? We're trying to keep track of them, and Tom and Amy were being awesome about that. Okay, so we had a question from we had a couple questions about switching from full-on recruiting to skill development, balancing that, and then also how do you really focus on retaining rookies? And then we've got another recruiting question coming in, getting girls to commit, having these off and on players. Does anyone want to take that? I can always just jump in, but. Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, I think that the fall is incredibly challenging for balancing the recruiting and the skill building and all of that. So one of the ways that I've tried to approach the fall is having a returners meeting where we talk about what the strategy is going to be so that they feel invested in doing a lot of the teaching. We switch fairly quickly from recruiting to skills development, and have also struggled to sort of bring those girls in who come find out about it later. And so that's where I would really appoint a couple players to be on the lookout for the girls that hate, because as a coach, I don't think that you can necessarily take the time in a practice to focus on one person, especially when you're already sort of moving along. And in terms of ways to get girls to commit, I don't want to be a broken record, but the culture piece is the way that people commit to things. Do they like being part of this team, and does this team mean more than just what's happening on the field? I think that was the biggest lesson that I took from my college experience. We were not coached. We had an A and a B team. From a small school. My school has really, really building in intentional community building and culture was the way that we kept people coming to practices and getting invested.
ultimate focused. But it's a good way to show new players how awesome it is to be a part of a team by doing things that are not just ultimate based.
Also has to do with the question that Julia asked about getting people to do assigned workouts outside of practice. Is culture is a huge aspect, like going and making it look fun. And you know, a lot of people dread working out, and a lot of, especially women who maybe haven't like played a sport before, are going to be really hesitant to go and put themselves out there. And you know, maybe they don't really understand what the workout's going to be, or they feel like really insecure about working out in front of a group. I've like heard a lot about that, and I think making sure that your culture is as inclusive and encouraging as possible, especially in the instances, like in situations outside of practice where you're really trying to build that foundation where you're taking your team to the next level, which is a lot of those outside of practice moments. It's really good to, you know, make your team culture shine there, and like really get people on board for putting in that extra work, so that in practice and like they like their teammates and they help them out by going and working out.
Seattle, that's a little bit more lighthearted, but still has some of the very similar effects, is the post-workout selfie. And so if you have a team group me or a team Facebook page, it's really easy to, you know, run your workout and then take a picture of yourself and say, hey, I did this workout, like, you know, this was funny, or this is what I did. And it kind of gives you an opportunity to share that you're working hard, and then gives your teammates opportunities to be inspired by your work. But it's way less stressful or intense compared to a workout log. Looks like Elise says that we adopted the post-workout selfie for winter workout encouragement this year. It was amazing. It's good to hear.
I think we're going to finish with this. How do you create a team culture that encompasses both A and B teams and subcultures? How do you build a bridge? I think what Zara was talking about, where you are going to the dining hall after, or you're having parties, I don't know if she said that or not, but making sure that the leadership in both teams are on the same page about getting everyone together, and making sure that you present these teams as part of a program, and that they are like the program, like we call it the CU program. But our B team and our A team are very separate entities, and they have their own team names, and sometimes it's a feeder team, sometimes it's not. And I think it's like really important for both teams to have individual goals and have an individual team culture, but also know that they are part of a larger program and a larger community, and they support each other. And so leadership really is like a driving force behind encouraging that. So going to their games and supporting them there and making sure that they're hanging out outside of practices. We like invite our B team to all of our workouts, and just like really gelling both of those teams together. It makes for a stronger program and stronger community. It's mutually beneficial.
The college team that I coach has a B team, and then I am captaining within an AB structure for clubs. So this is something that I think a lot about. And the first thing that popped into my head was planning ahead. And again, that's something that, like, as leaders, we really have to do and think about the intentions for everything. So planning ahead, what are all of the times that the A and the B team are going to be getting together, and knowing that before the semester starts, because I think that as the semester gets going and as your seasons get going, it can feel like a burden instead of something that is celebrated, and it can also be something that gets forgotten. Are we interacting enough with our B team? So I really encourage you to like think semester long or year long about how many times the A and the B team will come together doing what and for what purpose. Mackenzie, I would love to talk about your question about leadership losing commitment. Can you just tell us if you have a coach or not? I'm curious about that. Okay, cool. So the reason why I asked that is because I think that that is a harder thing to do if you are an uncoached team, to unseat your leadership or have the leadership change without coaches. Not that it's impossible at all, but I think that if that's something that the coaches are in agreement on, that might be something that's positive for the team. Okay, so yeah, frustrated with lack of commitment. I think that that's something that the leadership has a really open conversation about and gets together and say, hey, we're not really where we want to be. The girls are really looking to you. What do you see as your role in that? And sort of give people an opportunity to both take responsibility, but also to give the responsibility over to someone else if they're saying, what, I'm really not meeting the team's needs, because these are the things that the team needs. I don't know if Claire, Tina, if you have ideas about that as well. Okay, so, okay, cool. Well, Mackenzie, if you want to follow up with any of us about this, please do. All right. Hey, Claire, what was the question about inspiration? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go. What inspired you all to be so involved in Women's Ultimate? I guess that's like a really loaded question, Stevie. It has like given so much to me, and I like want every girl growing up to have the opportunities that I've had. I was like really fortunate to get onto a competitive college team and be able to like work my way up, and travel to a lot of different places and meet a lot of really incredible people. And I like hope that everyone gets that opportunity, because it provided a like really great outlet for me. And I think I've just seen it do so much for so many women. And yeah, I want all women to have that opportunity.
So I really want to help our sport grow.
Ditto to everything that Gina and Claire said in terms of what the sport has given me, and that I want to open the accessibility for more women to participate, and sort of the exciting part of like shaping this sport. Why I've been so involved is because I feel really, really joyful when I play, and the space of the field is the only time in my whole life when it's like a women's space, and it has nothing to do with men. And that to me is something that's really, really powerful, something that inspires me, and it's just so rare, and most women don't get a chance to experience a place, especially because of self-officiation, where they literally haven't control of the entire space. So I just can't believe the family that I have been able to be a part of through the sport, and it just makes me excited to organize and organize and organize. So thanks for the question, Stevie.
Hey everyone. Hang on one second here. Hey, Amy.
Hey.
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists. This was really informative for me. I am really happy you guys were able to do it, and it was awesome. So, to the extent that I can express my gratitude, I will. So thank you very much. Before everybody goes, Amy and I want to make everybody who is on this webinar aware of one more thing that USA Ultimate is doing, in the hopes of doing the same thing that we're doing here, just in a different way, and that is helping teams build programs and gather resources for their teams. So we are launching, hopefully by the end of this week, is the college incentive program called Achieving Collegiate Excellence, the ACE program. There's going to be a website launch about it in the next couple of days. Where'd it go? Hang on one second. Sorry about that. Went somewhere. There we go. And there's going to be a website launch about it in the next couple of days to sort of give you an idea of what it is and what we're trying to do. We're basically trying to create another form of recognition for college teams. Specifically, we have split out the recognition structure into 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, and honorable mention ACE teams. We want to give teams a chance to gain support from their administration by saying, hey, we are a USA Ultimate 5-star rated team. The reason why we're 5-star is because we value the things that USA Ultimate values, and those are the 3 C's of the mission statement: character, community, and competition. One thing that Qxhna was talking about is how we're in the infancy of this sport, and it is a very unique sport. One that values things like spirit of the game, one that values not just winning at all costs. And the way that we see it, and Amy and I are part of sort of the college working group that helped put this together, is that it reaches beyond the ultimate field. It means are you helping your community play ultimate? Are you involved in your school community? Are you working with your men's and women's teams together? Do you have B teams? Yeah, did you do well? Did you make nationals? That's certainly something we'd look at, but not really the focus. Have you hosted a tournament? Do you have a coach? Is your team sustainable? These are the questions that we ask a lot of teams, and we want to put a structure in place where we can help teams build the foundations to have strong tenets across the board. It's a little bit abstract what I'm talking about now. Hopefully once we actually get it launched, which is coming soon, you'll get to see it and be as excited as we are about it. Amy, do you have anything that you want to add? I hopefully covered most of it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and of course you've covered a ton. I'd like to add that this is an exciting opportunity for college teams to span across their communities spatially, so getting involved in their communities around them, but also temporally, so looking at the youth division, the club division, and we're connecting all of the divisions in promoting what we value as a sport. So it's a really exciting program, and I hope
Amy, you there?
everyone attending can get to apply, and we're planning out things at a really big time to show what we value as a community and a sport.
Awesome. So if any of the presenters have any parting words, would love to hear it. Otherwise, thank you all so much for being a part of this. This is a great turnout, and we plan to do a lot more of these, so keep an eye out. Our goal is to help you guys build programs, and we want to do everything we can to do that. So let us know.
It's been said in the chat, but
anyone else? Claire, Zara?
Claire's giving a thumbs up. So.
All right, everybody. We are signing off. We'll see you soon. See you on the field. Conferences start in 3 weeks. All right. Take care, everybody.